Not a paid product promotion. You see, today I'm enjoying this nice birch water because I'm going hiking and well, you got to stay hydrated. No, honestly, I just got this for free in my Hungry Harvest thing. I do subscribe to Hungry Harvest. It is pretty neat. Not a paid product promotion either. Just decent stuff. It sort of forces me to get fruits and vegetables. It changes it up because it depends on sort of what's oversupply. Anyways, whatever. So we're going hiking today. Don't know how I'm going to tie this into the Tesla, but I promise I'm going to find a way to tie this into the Tesla. If anything, I'm taking the Tesla to get hiking, so I guess that kind of counts. Either way, just finished lunch and well, we're going to meet up with the fam, so let's go hiking. Good stuff. As always, looking good. I think today might be an appropriate day. I think I've talked about it in the past, but let's talk about range anxiety. And just range in general, actually. Because, well, it limits you, but it doesn't. The biggest thing, I think, is supercharger proximity and, well, being able to fully charge your car every single night. I think those are the two biggest factors when it comes to range anxiety. And then also, like, what your daily life is like, and if you have access to maybe another vehicle. All right, guys, let's hit the road real quick, and then we'll get into it more. But 239 miles of range. Let's see how we do today. Uber, am I right? Anyways, back to the range stuff. So I think I've done videos on this before, maybe in different formats, but let's just start off with some simple numbers, right? So my car charges to a full range of around 253 miles. Now the range on Teslas, at least from my trial and error, is that it is accurate. If you drive conservatively and you're not mashing the accelerator pedal and wasting energy like that, you will get the range that it indicates, if not a little bit better. In one video that I did, I believe the video where I did actually like look into the range, I think somehow like I got range back on my car. Like I guess I drove well enough that I got range back, and it was weird because the range came back while I was parked. So I don't really know why that happened, how it happened, but it happened. So anyways, not only did I get the exact range that was specified, but while the car was parked, I got like another 5 or 10 miles back, I think, or something. So anyways, that was very interesting. But the point I'm trying to make is you can get the range indicated on your car. If my car says 253 miles, if I drive conservatively, I do have faith that I will be able to get 253 miles out of it. That's obviously easier when you have lower speed limits. If you're on a highway where the speed limit's 70, you're not going to be able to do 70 miles an hour because you're just going to be using more kilowatts of energy while you're driving. So that's pretty intuitive, right? Now, another way to look at it is I have this little gauge up here on my driver's dash that says watt hours per mile last 30 miles. So there is a line up there that says rated, and that's what your car is rated at. So if my car is rated at getting 253 miles of range, then as long as I keep the dashed line, which is what I'm averaging, at or below that rated line, I should be golden. Now, if you want to take a look here for a second. So as you can see right up here, we have that rated line. I don't know if you can see it too well on here, but this is for the past 30 miles. Well, you can see the line obviously goes up and down quite a bit, and that's based on me flooring it, not flooring it, all of that good stuff. So it's obviously going to shoot up when I floor it. I believe when I did that video doing donuts in my Tesla, the line actually went like off the graph. Like you couldn't even see it because I'm basically holding down the accelerator pedal the whole time I'm doing donuts. But either way, this line is a good indicator of sort of like average MPG or range. Now another screen that we have on here to help you with range, hold down the scroll wheel and go to trips. It says since 12:32 p.m. and since last charge. Now on here, they're roughly the same. And well, the reason's pretty obvious. I unplugged my car at 12:32, so I stopped charging them. But what will happen is if I go and park to go hiking and then come back to my car, it will say since 1:15 whenever I get back in my car and start it up, and since last charge. So this will give you an idea of how well you're doing on your current trip and since you were last able to plug your vehicle in. So it is pretty neat that they break it out that way and provide both time frames to look at that. So right now I've done 3.4 miles. I've used 0.9 kilowatt hours, and my efficiency, I guess, is 266 watt hours per mile. So as you can see on the far right there, the line went straight back up because as I got on the highway, I obviously was flooring it. So I do briefly want to go back and caveat what I said at the beginning of this video. You see, I mentioned that if you have 253 miles of range, I'm confident you can go 253 miles. Now I'm confident in that, assuming like normal driving conditions and driving conservatively. So if you're just driving on, relatively flat city roads around town, yeah, obviously. But think about it in the same way as you would think of driving a gas vehicle, right? If you're revving the car up higher, you're burning more fuel, you're going to get less gas or less MPG or whatever. It's the exact same thing with electric cars. Like if you're driving up a mountain, no, you're not going to get 253 miles of range. However, if you have to drive up a mountain and then back down a mountain, you might get some or most or all of that range back because of the regen braking. So it is interesting because there is regen braking on this car, which obviously helps get you that range. But at the same time, you have to take in other factors into consideration. And well, some of those factors can also be like heating and air conditioning. If you're blasting the heat and it's cold outside, the battery's going to be less efficient in general. You're also going to use more energy because you're trying to heat the car, all that stuff. So take it all with a grain of salt. All right, that's all I'm trying to say. We just finished hiking, but we got this nice Porsche Turbo right here in front of us. Not too shabby. Well, hiking was quite lovely today. It's 67 degrees outside. This is truly the first day of spring in my book, and absolutely gorgeous. Just hiked along the Potomac River, Great Falls, Virginia side. Grew up in Maryland. I've actually never hiked on the Virginia side, so it was nice to kind of, I guess, see the river from a different perspective. Anyways, yeah, we're gonna go eat actually at the restaurant connected to Katie's Cars and Coffee. I guess it's the Old Brogue or something, so we're gonna go eat there. I've actually never been into Katie's Coffee House. I've just been there for cars and coffee, but never had the coffee. Just go for the cars. So we're gonna go eat real quick and then more to come. All right, so this morning on my talk, I obviously covered the nice gauge that you have on the gauge cluster, saying the watt hours per mile for the past 30 miles. It gives your trip update information, so you can see on a trip since last charge and since a certain time. The range is fairly true and accurate, assuming normal driving conditions. Obviously, if you're accelerating a lot, if there's inclement weather, like really hot, really cold temperatures, it can obviously affect the battery as well and efficiency. So all those factors can obviously come into play, but I think that's sort of obvious. Now, I wouldn't say it's like super negatively affects the battery. Like when it's really cold outside, it's not like you're getting like a quarter of the mileage that it says on a Tesla. You're still getting decent mileage. It just uses a little bit more mileage because it has to use some of that energy to heat the battery up and make sure that the battery can operate effectively. Woo! That big wang club. All right, anyways, back to the range stuff. So anyways, let's move on from the range. Move on. Let's cover some more stuff about range anxiety. So one of the more interesting things is, like, during the day, right, if you're not near a supercharger or you don't have any way to fast charge the car, if I do, for example, Cars and Coffee up at Hunt Valley, it's about 60 miles up there, 60 miles back. That's 120 miles, almost half my range. Now, the thing is, for me, I'll be honest, I don't get the best driving range possible. You see, when it comes down to it, my 253 miles is more like 180 to 190 miles. But that's because I enjoy driving. I do a lot of accelerating, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, guys, I got a P85 to do just that. Just accelerate and have a blast and enjoy the car. So I don't worry too much about range, but I do worry about it. And you obviously have to when you have an electric vehicle that, you know, gets a finite amount of range and you want to do things during the day. Now, luckily, I have a Tesla, so I can actually do things. See, I feel like if I had a Nissan Leaf, like, I wouldn't even be able to, like, make it to Hunt Valley horsepower and back. An i3, like, what kind of a range do those things even get? The Leaf is better now. They came out with the Nissan Leaf Plus. But still, the point is, it's kind of like, okay, you can do 250 miles worth of driving in a day. And then what? You know, it's tough unless you're near a supercharger. At least with Teslas, you can charge quickly if you're near one, relatively near to one. If you're not, you're kind of SOL. You got to sit at a charger for a couple hours, hope for the best. So it is tough, but as long as you plan it out, you're okay. Now I've gotten questions. I did a supercharger video, or maybe it was just charging, and well, people followed up and were like, well, can you give us like a play-by-play of, you know, how quickly does it charge for the first 5 minutes, and then how much does it decrease 5 minutes after that, and then what's the average of the first 10? And I was like, whoa, first of all, that's extremely variable. The problem is that if I wanted to give you like the exact numbers as to how full the car was, I would pretty much have to deplete the battery to 0 in order to give you those conditions for my car. You're gonna get the best bang for your buck as far as mileage per time that you spend at the supercharger, the lower your battery is. I mean, I could go there and throw out some numbers. I don't know how helpful it would be, but it also varies on the supercharger. Like, there's been times where I've gone to the superchargers and they're only giving me like 35 watts versus like the 35 kilowatts versus the 120 kilowatts that it can actually do. So if the supercharger isn't charging at the full capacity, then it's also not, I guess, necessarily a true representation of what it can do, because, well, even if I'm charging at 70, that's, you know, just over half of what a supercharger could do if you're on a long road trip. However, it's a possibility. So it's very tough to emulate in the real world, and I only have one supercharger that's realistically close enough to sort of drive to. And I honestly never really go there that much because I can charge at my apartment, I charge at my office, and well, superchargers are more for road trips. I went there more, I guess, when I was at my parents' house. I was charging with a regular outlet in the garage, but I was also taking more road trips more often, so it's all variable. Anyways, the point I'm getting at is 250 miles is luckily sufficient enough for me and most of my daily driving needs. I do look for chargers, where chargers are. I'm very cognizant of where superchargers are, and I know, like, okay, if I'm doing this in the morning and I'm going to be doing X amount of driving, and I want to make sure I can also do X amount of driving in the evening, well, A, can I charge at my apartment building? How long can I charge for and know that I'm only going to get, you know, 12 to 18 miles of range an hour? Or should I just pop into a supercharger for 20-30 minutes, top my car off, and then drive home? So there are additional things that you do have to think about, but range anxiety, I've never really had range anxiety where I've been driving, been like, oh my God, I'm not gonna make it, any of that. I do a pretty good job of trying to make sure that my car is sufficiently charged, or I can get to a charger in between doing things. So I've been okay as of now, and luckily everybody else that I know has gasoline cars, so worst case scenario, you gotta drive in an ICE, internal combustion engine, just for those of you that don't know, a nice vehicle. So anyways, yeah, it's not a huge deal. I think that Tesla's done a good job of alleviating this due to the fact that there's longer range on the Teslas, and it's just getting better. Most Teslas now, as long as you're getting like the long range batteries, are around 300 miles, which would be nice to have those extra 50 miles on my car. Definitely would be nice. I think the other big question a lot of people have had for me is like summer and winter driving. How much does it affect range? I don't think it's tough. So there's just so many variables that go into this stuff, right? So for example, if your car sits outside or your garage gets very cold, then it can definitely affect range a little bit more, because your car is not only using range and battery to get yourself around, but it's using energy to warm itself up. Now this winter, I didn't notice as much battery drain. A, because, well, it was cold, but it was never too cold. B, my car, once I moved into my apartment building, the garage really didn't get any colder than like 50, 55 degrees, even in the middle of winter when it was freezing outside. So because of that, even as I was leaving my apartment building, my battery was already fairly warm and at a good operating temperature. So I think that helped my winter efficiency. Another way to help that though is if you are in a garage or even outside, turn your heat on before you get in your car while it's still plugged in at your house, and let your car heat up, and that will help your battery get to operating temperature. I think you'll notice that you won't use quite as much range if you're able to do that. I think the biggest thing is more going to be like, are you blasting your AC, are you blasting your heat, and are you accelerating a lot? Because if you're accelerating a lot like me, you're definitely going to crush range really easily. That's why I usually probably only would get about 190 miles, realistically speaking. I do have to note that if it's one of those days where it doesn't matter about range, then just enjoy the acceleration on the car, because there's something to be said about that seamless, silky smooth acceleration of a Tesla. When you just pin it and it never, then you gotta hit your brakes because you're gonna run into the car in front of you. But every time that you floor it in this car, and there's just no shifts, it's just so seamless, silky smooth, just 0 to 150, because it is electronically limited. But that's nor here nor there. Either way, guys, it's the acceleration. It's just such a unique experience. The range on these cars, I don't want to say it's not a big deal, but it's not a big deal. You learn to live with it. If you're doing a ton of miles in a day, okay, maybe a Tesla doesn't make sense right now, but as cars get better, as range gets further, these cars are just going to get better and better and be more and more practical, and you save so much money. I mean, that's probably one of the best things. I save so much money on gas right now. Get a Tesla if you're thinking about a Tesla, especially if your daily range is not that much. Definitely go for it, but it's never really been too much of an issue for me, and I've done plenty of road trips. What the heck is going on here? Honda Accord just parked in the charging spot, not charging? Unbelievable. There's literally a Honda Accord parked in the charging spot, not charging. Ridiculous. Alright, so I know I just kind of rambled a lot in this video, but at the end of the day, this is what we did. So 198 miles of range left on the battery. If we go down to our trips, we did 31 miles. So I was decently efficient today, I think. I hit like 238 maybe. So I used about 40 miles of range, but I really only drove 31.4 miles. I obviously just used about 10 miles of range accelerating and having fun. So it's worth it. It's definitely worth it. Oh, that's it. I hope I didn't ramble too much, and I hope this made sense. If it did, please consider liking and subscribing. But yeah, so that's going to be it for today. Thanks for watching.